if you believe that real service is never measured by the color of a uniform or the rank on a sleeve. Like this video and subscribe right now. We bring you stories about courage, dignity, and moments when one act of recognition silences a crowd of thousands. There is a kind of disrespect designed to be public, performed at a gate in front of cameras. It carries the weight of every person who saw it and said nothing. And once it lands on a shoulder that has carried more than most people ever will, it reveals exactly who a person is. The young soldier who delivered that disrespect on a warm Saturday morning in late May was Private Jacob Reeves. He was 23 years old, assigned to crowd control at the annual Memorial Day parade. He stood at the entrance to the VIP veterans section behind a velvet rope. The woman he stopped was Alina Ruth Caldwell. She was 78 years old. She wore a navy blue dress, a small gold pin on her collar, and orthopedic shoes she had polished herself the night before. She carried a worn leather folder under her arm. Reeves looked at her. He did not look at the folder. He did not look at the gold pin. He looked at the line of older white men in veteran caps already inside, and he made a decision in 2 seconds that would, within the next hour, end his career. He told her she was in the wrong place. What he did not know was that the 4-star general scheduled to lead the parade had been waiting 46 years to see Alina Caldwell again, and he was about to halt the entire procession to do it. By 8, the streets were filling. Folding chairs along the curb, vendors selling flags, the brass instruments warming up 2 blocks away. The VIP veterans section was a cordoned area of about 100 chairs in front of the reviewing stand. Entry required either an invitation card, a current military ID, or a discharge document. Alina had received her invitation 3 weeks earlier. It sat in the leather folder along with her DD-214 and a small stack of yellowed documents she had not looked at in nearly 5 decades, but had brought that morning out of an instinct she had not bothered to question. She had taken the bus. Her knees were not what they used to be, but she had not wanted to ask her granddaughter for a ride. Alina was not the kind of woman who asked when she could manage. She arrived at the rope at 7:48. Reeves was alone at the gate. In the past 20 minutes, he had waved through about 15 older white men in veteran caps. He had glanced at exactly 2 of their cards. When Alina stepped up, Reeves looked at her longer than the others. He did not raise the rope. He cleared his throat and said the seating area she was looking for was on the other side of the park. He pointed vaguely in a direction that did not contain any seating area at all. Alina did not move. She said this was the correct gate. She began to lift the folder. Reeves did not look at it. He repeated more firmly that the section was reserved for veterans. Behind Alina, a small line had begun to form. A man in a veteran cap watched with a tightening jaw. A young woman in a sundress lifted her phone and began, quietly, to record. To understand what was about to happen, you have to understand who Alina actually was. Her father, James Caldwell, had served in the Pacific during World War II in a segregated army unit. He came home with 2 pieces of shrapnel still in his thigh, and a quiet conviction that his children would have more than he had. Alina grew up watching her father iron his old uniform once a year on Memorial Day, even though the town parade did not invite black veterans to march in it. She watched him salute the flag in their small front yard while the parade he was not invited to pass 3 blocks away. Alina enlisted in 1968. She was 20 years old. Her mother held her hand at the kitchen table the night before she left and said one sentence: "You go and you serve, and you come home, and you do not let anybody, ever in any uniform, in any room, tell you that you do not belong where you are standing." Alina heard her. She served 22 years. She rose to Sergeant First Class. She served in Vietnam in 1970. She earned a Bronze Star for actions in 1971, actions that involved her dragging 2 wounded soldiers, both white men, out of a vehicle that had taken indirect fire. She was 23 years old. One of the soldiers she pulled out of that vehicle was a young second lieutenant named Robert Hayes, her commanding officer. He told her later that he owed her his life. He said he understood the difference between a job and a choice, and that what she had done that day had been a choice. She had not seen Robert Hayes since 1972. She did not know he was now a 4-star general. She did not know he had spent the last year since his wife's funeral trying to find her. By 8:30, the crowd had swelled into the thousands. The mayor was at the reviewing stand, a military protocol officer with a clipboard, a local news camera with a young reporter named Tara Alu. At the rope, Reeves had grown impatient. "Ma'am, I need you to step aside." Alina had still not moved. The line had grown to about a dozen people. The man in the veteran cap stepped forward and said the soldier should look at the lady's documents. Reeves said he had the situation under control. The young woman in the sundress was still recording. She had also tagged the local news station. "You should see this. There is a black veteran being turned away from the VIP gate at the parade." Inside the reviewing stand, a press aide named Jeffrey Coates received the notification. He stood up so abruptly he knocked over a bottle of water. He walked very fast toward the protocol officer. 2 blocks away, General Robert Hayes stood at the staging area in his full dress uniform with 4 stars on each shoulder. He had been told 2 weeks earlier that the Veterans Association had located the woman he had been searching for. He did not know whether she would come. He was about to learn that she was here, and that she was being turned away at the gate by a young soldier under his own indirect command. At 8:46, Reeves made the decision that would end his career. He leaned forward across the rope. He said, with the careful composure of a young man who believed he was being polite, that he was going to have to ask her one final time to please move along to the public viewing area. He used the phrase "move along." Elena did not move along. She lifted the leather folder. She opened it slowly. She removed 3 documents. The first was her invitation card. The second was her DD-214, listing her rank as Sergeant First Class, her dates of service from 1968 through 1990, and her decorations including the Bronze Star with V device for valor. The third was a yellowed envelope, postmarked 1972, addressed in a young officer's careful hand to Sergeant E.R. Caldwell at a duty station in Germany. She held the documents up. She said, in a voice that did not need volume because the line behind her had already gone quiet, that she had served 22 years in the United States Army. Reeves looked at the documents. He looked for the first time at the small gold pin on her collar, which was, he realized too late, a service pin in the shape of a bronze star. He did not lift the rope. He took half a step back and said that if she did not move to the side immediately, he would call security to escort her out. The man in the veteran cap behind Elena said, audibly, "Oh, you have got to be kidding me." 2 more people lifted their phones. 2 blocks away, General Hayes was being handed a phone by his aide-de-camp, Major Dana Foster. "Sir, you need to hear this." The general put the phone to his ear. What General Hayes heard was a description of a situation unfolding at the VIP gate. A black female veteran with proper credentials, a young soldier who had refused her entry. Phones recording. The general asked the protocol officer to read him the name on the invitation card. The protocol officer focused his binoculars and read the name aloud. "Elena Ruth Caldwell." On the other end, the general did not speak for 4 seconds. When he spoke, his voice had changed. He told the protocol officer to do nothing until he arrived, not to send security, not to let anyone in any uniform near her until he was personally on site. He hung up. He turned to Major Foster. He said 3 words, "Hold the parade." Major Foster blinked. "Sir, the parade is scheduled to begin in 72 minutes. The general said, "The parade can wait. I am walking to the gate." He stepped down from the staging area in his full dress uniform with 4 stars on each shoulder, and he began to walk down the parade route on foot. Major Foster fell into step beside him. 2 military police officers fell in behind. 3 blocks past the staging area, he could see the velvet rope, the line of people, and the figure of a woman in a navy blue dress standing very still at the front, holding a worn leather folder. He had not seen her in 46 years. He recognized her instantly. By the time General Hayes was 100 yards from the rope, the crowd had begun to notice him. A 4-star general on foot an hour before the parade. Phones lifted. The news camera pivoted. At the rope, Reeves had not yet noticed. The man in the veteran cap had stepped forward and placed himself beside Elena, not in front of her, but next to her, the way one veteran stands next to another. It was the older black woman on the sidewalk who saw the general first. She gasped. Within 10 seconds, the entire crowd had turned to face the approaching figure. Reeves heard the rustle. He turned. He saw the general, his face drained of color. He came to attention so sharply that his clipboard slipped from his hand and landed face down on the pavement. The general did not look at him. He walked past the velvet rope without breaking stride. He stopped 3 feet from Elena. He stood at attention. And in front of 3,000 people, in front of a young soldier whose career had just ended, in front of a news camera now broadcasting live, General Robert Hayes raised his right hand in a slow, deliberate, full military salute. He said in a voice that carried clearly across the silent crowd, "Sergeant First Class Caldwell, it is an honor." Alina looked at him. She looked for 1/2 second at the 4 stars on his shoulders and at the face of the man she had not seen in 46 years. And she did the only thing a soldier of her generation could possibly have done. She set the folder down gently. She lifted her right hand, and she returned the salute. The two of them stood there with their hands raised at the brim at attention for 9 full seconds. Stand in a silent crowd and salute someone for 9 seconds. You will feel a city seeing you. When the general lowered his hand, he stepped over the rope. He took Alina's hand in both of his. He said quietly, "You do not know how long I have been looking for you." Alina said with the smallest break in her voice, "I am right here, sir." He said gently, "Today, ma'am, that is on me." The applause did not start the way applause usually starts. It began in many places at once, the way rain begins on a hot day. A woman 2 rows back stood up first, then the older black couple, then the man in the veteran cap. Within 20 seconds, 3,000 people were on their feet. Some clapping, some not, some simply standing because remaining seated felt insufficient to what they had just witnessed. The applause carried up the avenue. Within a minute, the entire visible length of the parade route was on its feet. Tara Alu had stopped narrating because the camera was already saying everything that needed to be said. Reeves was still standing at attention beside the rope. His face had gone from pale to wet. He had made a decision in 2 seconds, and he was now standing inside the consequences in front of 3,000 people. General Hayes did not look at him. He walked Alina, slowly, at the pace of a 78-year-old woman in orthopedic shoes, into the VIP veteran section. He pulled out a chair for her. He waited until she was seated. He said one more thing, loudly enough that the protocol officer could hear. "The parade will begin in 20 minutes, not now. The city has just witnessed something. Let it breathe." Then he sat down beside Alina. He did not let go of her hand. They sat in the front row, surrounded by an applauding crowd that showed no signs of sitting down, and they did not speak for a long minute because there was nothing yet that needed to be said. The video went online within 15 minutes. The young woman in the sundress posted her recording with a single caption. "A 4-star general just walked half a mile to salute a black female veteran who was being turned away at a parade gate." By the next morning, the story was the lead human interest item on every major network. The clip was watched in the first week more than 90 million times. Alina did not give an interview. She told her granddaughter she had only stood at a gate with her papers in order. The story was about what the country was finally willing to see. General Hayes gave a brief statement 2 days later. He said Sergeant First Class Alina Caldwell had saved his life in 1971. The salute had not been an act of charity. It had been long overdue military protocol. Private Jacob Reeves was removed from his post and placed on a 60-day disciplinary review. He was assigned to a remedial program in military protocol and equal opportunity training. 2 months later, Alina received a letter from the Department of the Army. The Army was awarding her the Soldier's Medal, recognizing her conduct that morning at the Velvet Rope. The general had requested to pin it on her himself. The ceremony took place the following October. The general pinned the medal on her collar beside the small gold bronze star pin. He saluted her again. She returned it again. The room, smaller this time, quieter, applauded for a long time, and the general did not interrupt the applause. He let it run. What is the lesson here? Alina had served 22 years. She had earned a bronze star with V device. She had pulled a wounded officer out of a burning vehicle when she was 23 years old. None of that was new on the morning of the parade. The country simply had not, until that morning, looked at her long enough to see it. The general did not create her dignity by saluting her. Her dignity had been there all along. What the general did was use the authority of his uniform to make a public country see what a private country had already known. The applause that traveled up the avenue was not only for Alina. It was, in a quieter way, for every person in that crowd who had stood at a gate of their own and been told they were in the wrong place. The lesson is that the people who carry the most are often the people who insist, the most quietly, on the smallest amount of acknowledgement. Alina did not arrive at that gate to be saluted. She arrived to honor her father, who had ironed his uniform every Memorial Day for parades that did not invite him. She had been ready a long time. The country, on a Saturday morning in May, finally caught up. Every single one of us has an Alina Caldwell near us. A teacher overlooked for 30 years. A nurse who carried a hospital floor through a pandemic. The question is whether we will walk past or whether we will recognize what is in front of us. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel because we tell stories like this every week. Tell us in the comments below who in your life deserves to be recognized. The veteran in your family who never talks about it. The grandmother who served and was never thanked. We read every comment. Some salutes take a long time to find their way home, but they always do when somebody is willing to walk on foot to deliver them.